Would you like to learn quick and practical information on over 36 watercolor paints and why I am adding these to my travel box? And at the end of the video, I'll show you 2 great watercolor travel pads. Okay, I'm getting ready to make a custom travel palette, and I'm going to be packing some of my favorite colors for my upcoming trip. This was the travel palette that I decided on. I got it from Amazon. I wanted something that would give me a lot of options. I wanted to have it be tin, and then this palette has full-size pans and half pans, and then I have extras, and they're just going to snap on out. I can rearrange them any way I like. I think I'm going to fill the full-size pans with colors that I know I use a lot. Pearl Scarlet. I'm going to jam it on down in there. Okay. Next color, Anthracnoctide Red. And the reason why I'm filling half pans is reds goes a long way. Okay, so Pearl Orange. I've discovered that this is a nice little pop of orange color. And I'm a little concerned, hopefully I'm not doing this too late for my trip. I'll do the same with Raw Sienna. This is kind of one of those colors that probably do a big pan of. And these warm colors here, I did swatches for them. This is pretty much the palette for these. Windsor Lemon is a very important color on my palette. I use this color a lot, and I probably should be doing a full pan, but I don't have it as much left of this tube of paint. I'm going to keep part of it liquid. That's the only reason why I'm not filling up a half pan. I'm going to give myself quite a lot of this. Nougat Beige is another very important color on my palette, and I've got a lot of it, so I'm going to fill up a pan. Okay, Permanent Rose. And I have to confess, I haven't had a travel palette like this in a long time. I've always been more of a fan of paint out of the tube, but I'm giving this a chance. I'm going to see if I can adapt and learn to use paint that's dry, and I'm hoping that this is going to help me get out into the field a lot easier versus feeling like I have to pack a lot more supplies. And one thing I've learned is if you can make something convenient for yourself in your art practice, it's going to be something that you'll do more often. This is Opera Pink, and it's one of those colors where a little bit goes a long way. When I make big paintings, I can use a great deal of any of these colors if they're in the flower or the landscape, whatever I'm painting. Just in general, I think for like a sketchbook, travel type situation, some of these really strong flower colors they don't necessarily need to be full pans, because chances of me using a full pan is probably not high. Here's my Bright Rose. I don't use this one as often. There we go. Okay, shoot, that one got messy. And that shouldn't bother me because I'm used to painting on palettes where I don't clean the paint off because I like those mixing grays. So why paint that's out of place in a pan would bother me is I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna have to learn to adjust to that. So the next color is Alizarin Crimson, and this is one of my original paint colors. I don't use it as much. It's sort of a tricky paint color to use in florals. I don't see myself ever not using this color, even though I've found other reds through the years to kind of basically replace it. Reds that I feel work better in florals. I think Alizarin Crimson is always going to have its place. I love it in architecture, believe it or not. So it's been great for that. Okay, so this is where I'm thinking about, actually I might move on to the greens because the greens are so important in my palette, and I know a few of these I need to have large tubs. So let me figure this out. I think I'm gonna do green gold large. I think I might do sap green large, and then maybe that's probably what I'm gonna do. And then I'm thinking for these, oh gosh, I use a lot of this color. I use a lot of cobalt blue, but I'm gonna see if I can squeeze some of that out. Some of these colors are very strong, and some of these blues are kind of new on my palette. I have quite a lot of large pans, so I'm gonna see. I use this a lot, I use this a lot. I don't have that much carbazole violet, so I know these ones here are small. French ultramarine, gosh. That's always been a big one. I think this color here I use a lot of, but it's dry, so I'm going to have to improvise and probably just take the tube. It might feel like, I have too many colors. Honestly, when I do paintings, I only use a fraction of my colors. That's something to consider. I'm gonna fill these with what I know instinctually I need. Some of these purples are so strong. I do wanna make sure that I have these options because gosh, they are so different from one another. This is one of those colors where a little bit goes a long way. This is a beautiful blue, and like I said, Hawaii just has so much beautiful color in its oceans and skies, and there's just so much color there. That's, for those of you who are new to my work, basically the Hawaiian Islands inspire my work. They inspire a vast majority of my paintings, and I've been painting Hawaii for 2 decades. More than 2 decades, actually. I can also swatch colors as I go, because the one thing about these pans is once you put them in your palette, you better have a reference for colors, or you better be pooling your colors quickly and learning which colors you put where. These travel pans, the paint can just look dark in them. So learning your travel set is important. Maybe having a minimal palette is a good idea. This travel palette is really going to be more about me trying to adapt to painting more on the go. I'd like to make that easier for myself. And at some point, I'll probably buy another palette that has fewer pans, that's much smaller. I can just take that when I know I'm doing specialized landscapes that don't have as many color requirements. When I do large paintings, I use lots of paint. That is why I like to buy big tubes. All right. And like I said, this color here, it's dry. I'm just gonna let that one go. These 3 colors. And I'd really like to see the difference between these 2 a little bit more. I realize paint is very expensive for a lot of people. When I was younger, I really was conscious as to how expensive paint is. A lot of these colors you can actually mix. You don't really need all these paints. I started buying more paint when I started noticing lots of artists on YouTube doing palettes and swatching and experimenting with colors, because before that, I had successfully made hundreds of watercolor paintings with a very limited palette. I didn't really feel like having 15 blues or whatever was going to make a difference. I had like 3 or 4, and a couple of those you almost never use. Last blue, okay. And a lot of those are kind of in this color palette and this color palette. Let's actually move on to the greens. Prussian green is a green that I use a lot in oil painting, but funny enough, it was not a green that I've had on my watercolor palette, and I can't really explain why, except for that, once again, up until recently, I would mix most of my colors. I didn't have as big of a palette as I do now. And then my handy dandy canvas stretcher is what I actually use to squeeze paint out at the very end. All right. Okay, that one's done. I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually a slight color difference. That little tube has a slightly different hue to it. I happen to really like this green gold, but honestly, it's a super easy color to mix. At some point, I will do a video to show you how I mix my favorite colors, and they are colors that you can mix too. I also have a hooker screen, but it's dry. The paint's like, can't squeeze it out. It's dry, so I'm gonna put it over here. But this sap green here, it's another one that I use a lot of. And honestly, sap green with like a kind of a yellow tone, that's how you get your gold green. Okay, so gold green, it's a beautiful color. It's very convenient to have, but definitely it's a color you can mix. So if it takes you a long time to go through paint, you don't really need to buy all these paints. This is an interesting green. And I've found with greens, I mean, greens are tricky in landscape. You can have an area just be really boring if you're not good with working with greens. Being able to mix and work with greens is, I think, a very important skill set. Okay, so now for like the more earthy tones and a couple specialty paints. So Venetian red is one of those colors, it's opaque. I love it in architecture. You know, it's great for painting terracotta, like terracotta roof tiles. If you paint European scenes or with those colors, this is a nice color to have. It's a very strong color. It's very opaque, so you gotta know when to use it. And anybody who does landscape, you need some of these like earthy tones. They might not be the most exciting colors in the world to work with. They're pretty essential. You need them in warm and cool values. So this is like raw umber. I don't use a lot of raw umber. I mean, I've got a big tube of it, so I might as well give myself this. And honestly, if I start doing more landscapes outside, especially like seascapes, anything that requires rock and sand, this is going to be a color that I'm gonna want to grab for a lot. And then burnt umber, this is another one of those colors where you need these colors. I mean, like, they are not exciting colors. You need these colors if you do any kind of seascape or landscape. This is Potter's Pink. This is kind of a nice shadow color. It's a specialty color. It's an interesting color. I think it's a sophisticated color. Another great color for like terracotta type things if you paint. And then this is Shadow Violet. Again, just a color I bought on a whim. A lot of these grays and dark colors you can mix. Payne's Gray, as you can see, based on the size of my tube here, has been an important color in my palette. Doesn't mean I can't try other grays or indigos. Indigo is a color here. You know, I have two indigos, and indigo can be a wildly different color. I'm thinking I'm gonna stick with the Winsor & Newton version, but indigo can be go towards a gray, and it can be very purple. So just, you know, it is kind of a purple. This is a specialty gold. So I'm going to push this down. I've got one more color, and it's this titanium white, and I need another half pan. These are all of the tubes of paint that I filled in cans, and I'm going to let them set up and dry, and then I'm gonna figure out how I want to arrange them. Feel free to let me know what your favorite colors are.
Okay, time for some quiet. I realize I've been talking quickly and that this is a lot of information, but you can tell I'm very passionate about painting and colors, and I have lots and lots of thoughts on my watercolor paints.
Okay, this is something that I'm actually really excited about. I chose 2 watercolor sketch pads. One is Arches paper, and I know that the quality paintings that I can do on this is great. I'm going to also experiment with using this. I'm definitely curious about this, and I'm excited because I've actually never had a watercolor sketch pad, and you know, it looks like real watercolor papers. And let me see. And if I absolutely don't like the quality of the paper in this, then I have a reliable brand that I like.
Let me know in the comments below if you found this video helpful, and in one of my next videos I'm going to swatch these colors out on the beach. Thank you for watching.